And then we move on straight on to the next chapter, which is chapter 56. And this chapter is entitled Babun la yus'alu biwajhi Allahi illa al-Jannah. Chapter that nothing is to be asked for by way of the face of Allah except paradise. You don't ask by way of the face of Allah except paradise. And then under this chapter heading, the Shaykh brings just a single hadith from Jabir radiallahu anhu, who said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La yus'alu biwajhi Allah illa al-Jannah." So the same, it's exactly the same as the title that Shaykhul Islam Muhammad bin Wahhab has given to the chapter heading. It's taken from the hadith. So Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan says that this chapter, the Shaykh, he placed this chapter, rahimah-ullah, in Kitab-ut-Tawheed, because within it is, again, a glorification and a veneration of Allah's attributes, and to glorify Allah's attributes is actually from the glorification of Allah, and to glorify Allah's attributes is actually from Tawheed, because it's a glorification of Allah Himself. And as for when a person doesn't glorify and aggrandize and venerate Allah's names, then Allah's attributes, then this is a deficiency in Tawheed, because it's belittling and diminishing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for the face of Allah, wajhullah, the face of Allah, this is one of His attributes, that are from His dhat, and the affirmation of this attribute has been established by successive transmission, overwhelming transmission of the texts, either in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. And the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are unanimously agreed that this is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the Shaykh brings some evidences. كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. Surah Al-Rahman, in which Allah says that everything upon it will perish, and there will remain the face of your Lord, full of honor and excellence and nobility. So here it's affirmed that Allah has a face, and Allah here has described His face as having jalal, loftiness and nobility, and al-ikram, and nobility, and so on and so forth. And likewise in another ayah Allah says, كل شيء حالك إلا وجهه له الحكم وإليه ترجعون. That everything will perish except His face, and to Him belongs the judgment, and to Him will you return. So in this ayah, كل شيء حالك إلا وجهه, this is just the same as the other verse in Surah Al-Rahman, وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. It's the same in meaning. As for the hadith, as for the sunnah, then there are many hadith which contain the affirmation of the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From them is the hadith which, this particular hadith that the author has brought, لا يسأل بوجه الله إلا الجنة, that nothing is to be asked by way of the face of Allah except for paradise. And likewise in another hadith, أعوذ بنور وجهك الذي أشرقت له الظلمات وصلح عليه أمر الدنيا والآخرة. I seek refuge with the light of your face, which has illuminated all of the darknesses, to the end of the hadith. So this is a supplication which again makes mention of the face of Allah. And there are other examples. The Shaykh says there are many other hadith like this which the scholars have mentioned, and likewise those scholars who have authored books in the field of Aqidah, then they have likewise brought these hadith and categorized them within the relevant sections in these books. And if, for example, then the Shaykh gives some examples of such books which bring a hadith and ayat pertaining to this issue and other similar issues of creed. From them, At-Tawheed, Kitab-ut-Tawheed of Ibn Khuzaymah, and Kitab-al-Sunnah of Al-Ajuri, and Kitab-al-Sunnah of Ibn Abi Asim, and all of the other various books which have been authored on the subject of Tawheed specifically. You find that all of these scholars mention the evidences that relate specifically to the attributes of Allah, and specifically to the sifat dhatiyah, those attributes which are dhatiyah, part of His essence. From them, the face and the two hands. And likewise they also mention the sifat fi'liyah, the attributes which pertain to the actions of Allah, like al-istiwa, al-nuzul, descending to the lowest heaven, and other such things from those attributes which pertain to action. So the face then is from the sifat-ul-dhatiyya, as-sifat-ul-dhatiyya, from the attributes that pertain to Allah's essence, and it is the greatest of them. However, when we affirm this attribute, then it is with the full knowledge and the full absolute certainty that the attributes of Allah are not like the attributes of His creation. For Allah has a face and the creation have a face. And Allah has two hands and the creation have two hands. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has hearing and He has seeing, and the creation likewise have hearing and seeing. But the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are befitting Him, and they are in a manner which befit Him and suit Him and His greatness. And the attributes of the creation befit and suit the creation. So they're different. There's no resemblance between the attributes of the creation and the attributes of the Creator. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. There is nothing which is like Him, and He is the hearing and the seeing. And like Allah says in another ayah, هَلْ تَعْلَمُ لَهُ سَمِيًّا. Do you know of a namesake to Him? Do you know of any namesake for Him? That's the end of Surah, that's in Surah Maryam, verse 65. And in another ayah, فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. That's in Surah Al-Baqarah. Do not make for Allah any rivals or equals whilst you know. And in Surah Al-Ikhlas, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And there is none which again is an equal or like of Him. So all of these texts, they negate any resemblance or similitude or likeness for Allah, or between the attributes of the creation and the attributes of the Creator. So there is no resemblance, even there might be some similarity in the meaning, right? So Allah hears and sees, we too hear and see. There's a similarity in meaning. So in meaning, there's a similarity, but in the kayfiyya, in the exact nature and the exact reality of how these attributes are with Allah, then there is no similarity or resemblance whatsoever from any angle. And then the Shaykh says that whoever likened Allah with His creation, then he's disbelieved, and whoever rejected what Allah described Himself with, then he too has disbelieved. Just as Nu'aym bin Hammad, who is the Shaykh of Imam al-Bukhari, rahimah-ullah, just as he said, this is one of his statements in meaning, that whoever likened Allah to the creation or resembled Allah to the creation, he is disbelieved, and whoever rejected what He described Himself with, then he too has disbelieved. And there are other scholars from the scholars of the Salaf who have also said that whoever resembled Allah with His creation, then he has disbelieved. This is because Allah says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ, and there is none which is like unto Him. And then they continue to say that whoever rejected what Allah described Himself with, then he too has disbelieved, because Allah said, وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. That's the second half of that verse, that He is the all-hearing and the all-seeing. And likewise He says here, وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ, that the face of your Lord, full of bounty and honor, full of nobility and honor and excellence, that it will remain. So Allah affirmed for Himself a face, so therefore whoever rejected and negated what Allah affirmed for Himself, then he is a mukadhib. He is someone who rejects Allah, and he is a disbeliever in Allah, because from Iman is that you believe in Allah and His angels and His books and His messengers and the last day and al-qadr, the goodness and the bad, the good and the bad of it. And from Iman in Allah is to have Iman in His names and His attributes in a manner that befits Him. So therefore, Allah has a face that befits. Allah has a face just as He affirmed for Himself, but this face doesn't resemble the face of the creation, those in the creation, and it should never ever occur in the mind or in the thought of a believer this evil thought, which is that there is some kind of resemblance between Allah and between the creation. So the person in whose mind, or this thing starts revolving in his mind or in his thought, then this person is deficient in his Iman. And if he was to actually negate what Allah described Himself with,
then he will be devoid of his devoid of iman. He would be devoid